How were all your interviews? You just did a ton of...
There was like 25 of them.
Yeah?
Yeah, all in a row. One, boom, 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 boom.
Well, I was joking with them, and I'm like, I don't know when he sleeps. Like, when does he take time to even...
We drove in from Austin last night, and we got here at like 3 in the morning, so I didn't sleep on the bus, and I managed to sleep probably from about 4 to 7 o'clock. And then I got up and then got here at 8. So I averaged about 4 hours a night.
But see, with your aviators on, you could probably take a nap and nobody would even know.
I'm asleep right now. No, I've done some video shoots where I had to do liners and all that kind of stuff, and I would keep the sunglasses on so I could read the thing because they can't see where my eyes are focused. And there's been other times where you're doing photo shoots and you just close your eyes.
Just be in that moment. It's the easiest way to go. Well, I know we want to talk about the new album, Living the Dream, out now. And I saw you uploaded a new video, just came out today.
Yeah, this morning.
And the puppets are amazing. And people are they're gonna hear this, but you're gonna have to go watch the video to see what I'm talking about. The puppets are really cool. Like we need to market those.
Right? Yeah, the puppets are great. I mean, the sort of the origins of this whole thing with the video was the song itself, Driving Rain, it's pretty dark subject matter. And so, you know, they always say, okay, we got to do a video. I hate videos. But I was like, okay, so we went to some different directors, and everybody had this very sort of dark and dramatic live action kind of concept kind of thing going with actors and a relationship and everything. And I was like, this is just too serious and too boring. So I thought if we did something animated, then we could keep the sort of the dark tone, but we could make it a little bit more upbeat. And I went to this animation house whose stuff you're probably really familiar with and don't even know it, but they're called Stupid Buddy. And they do Robot Chicken. Do you know Robot Chicken?
Yes.
And then they do like those animated Super Bowl commercials, and they've done a couple movies and whatnot. So I have some friends over there. So I said, okay, so we need to do a video for Next to Nothing in 2 weeks about this, and I gave them the song, and so they came up with this idea of doing these puppets, and it was just awesome.
It's fun, and like you said, it kind of the first thing you think of is how fun this is. Oh my God, that's rad! The Slash doll is so realistic. You got the little Miles Kennedy doll, it's pretty cool.
I went down to their headquarters and where they were actually putting together the components for the video. And so there was this little team that they had down there. There was a guy, I can't remember his name, and a couple girls, 3 girls. And they put together, the puppets, which are actually about this big.
Right.
And they had all their different facial expressions that they could change for each scene, each frame. And then the guy had built this RC car out of like all these different RC cars and built this thing from scratch using a chassis from this type of RC car. And, the Jeep body came off a Jeep one, but they put that on this really fast engine on this other chassis.
How much work went into that? That's so crazy.
They were so into it and so sort of enthusiastic and passionate about it. So it was just a fun thing all around.
That's pretty cool. And you talked about the theme of the music video and where you wanted to go with it. Right now, politics are in everything, every album, a lot of albums, even in rock albums.
That's where the title of this record came from, was politics. Everybody thinks Living the Dream, and it was a sort of autobiographical kind of look at wherever it is that I am at this point. But it had nothing to do with that. It was totally just based on everything that's been going on for the last couple of years, here domestically and even abroad,
How you're very involved, which is awesome to hear. As far as even the music video, you and Miles seem like you have obviously you have a good chemistry because this is your 3rd album together. You've known each other for almost, I guess, a decade that you've been working together.
We started in 2010, so it's going on 9 years.
It seems like a healthy relationship, I guess, is the point. What's one of the highlights you would say? I always talk, and I just talked about Miles Kennedy. I'm like, that guy is such a rock star who probably could be at some Robert Plant level of rock star, but you know what I'm saying? Like, he's got the vocals that are just mind-blowing. I want to see him get even bigger than he is now. Like, how great is it to work with Miles? I'm going to give him credit. How great is it to work with Miles?
Oh, he's great. I mean, Miles is to work with him, like artistically, he's just great because he's really open-minded. He can find a melody in almost anything, which makes my job really easier because I come up with musical stuff. And, I'd say 8 times out of 10 things I come up with, he'll find a really great melody for, which is pretty awesome and prolific, But then as a person, he's just really laid back. He's not a rock star at all. and he's just very sort of soft-spoken, mild-mannered, and just really easygoing. So he's a pleasure to work with.
I saw an interview with him from a couple of years ago. It might have been your second album together, where he said that he'll be on stage, you guys will be at a live show, and he'll like hang back by the drums and just watch you do guitar parts that you just make up on the fly. Like he'll just do guitar off the top of his head in every song. He said he's mind blown by watching you, and I'm like, you've got to have just guitar parts in your head at all times.
It's funny. Well, the thing is about playing live for me is that it's a great sort of platform for me to be able to improvise. And I probably get the most practicing in and the most sort of creative output from coming up with ideas on the fly while we're out there in front of a bunch of people, as opposed to sitting around on the couch and just trying to think up something. But the funny thing about Miles saying that, he's such an awesome guitar player that he has no business saying that about me. So.
Do you think that, you have one of the best guitar riffs in music history with "We Welcome to the Jungle." Are there any good guitar riffs left to create? I don't play instruments and I don't make music. I'm infatuated with it, but are there more to create? Are all the ideas gone?
That's the journey, right?
Yeah. How many do you have in your head right now where you're like, I don't know, this could work?
I'm not thinking right this
it's
particular
the journey.
moment. Otherwise, our conversation would just hit a standstill, and I would just silently be sitting here, and you'd be waiting for me to come up with something. No, but I'm always keeping a guitar with me for the most part everywhere I go, and just messing around, seeing if something comes up, and if you have an idea, and just applying it to the guitar immediately so you can capture it before it disappears.
Well, the one thing I do love about this album and all the albums that you guys have done together is at this state with music. It's just a great rock album. Everything about it, start to finish, is a great rock album, from his vocals to the guitar parts, and we need that right now. My big thing on air, I'm always like, we got to keep rock music alive. We got to buy the album, support the band, go to the concerts, buy the damn merch. Social media, keep rock music alive. It's not a dying format, in my opinion, but this is a good album that we need right now.
Oh, well, thank you. It's rock and roll. I don't want to sound cliche, but that's what turned me on when I started, and it's always going to be the thing for me. And so I'll always be putting out records that are that, And as far as what everybody else is doing, it's struggling as a I guess what you call as a genre to sort of get back to a place. But I think because of where it's at right now, it's making a lot of kids sort of rise to the top of the heap as far as doing it for the right reasons, because there's no money to be made in it.
Right.
There's none of those lures that used to have cars and money and
signing bonuses with Ferraris,
jets and all that shit. It's not
cocaine and hookers.
If you want to do this, you got to be doing it for the passion of it, with really no other real rewards except for making cool music. And I think kids are starting to really pull it together, and I don't know, the attitude seems to be there. So I'm talking about young kids.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
I made a joke also before you got in here. I'm like, there's
could be yours.
Let's hope. Maybe some of this mojo will soak in. Maybe. Like I said, he could be gay and like Diana Ross. I don't care, but we'll see where this goes. You've worked with just about every artist possible. Every artist possible. And I think back to this time where I was at the Rainbow and I saw Lemmy, at the bar. And I will never be that person to fan out or nerd out. So I went up to Lemmy and I just asked him to light my cigarette. I was like, do you have a lighter?
He's such a gentleman, too.
Such a gentleman. We had about a 37-second conversation. He lit my cigarette like a gentleman, and I said thank you, and he gave me a little cheers, and I walked away, and I was like, that was the best conversation I never had in my life.
Back to the video game.
And then he went back to the video game. Just hunkered down. It was either Charlie Sheen or Lemmy that I saw at the Rainbow.
Awesome. I miss him.
That's what I wanted to ask you. What's one thing from your relationship, knowing Lemmy for so long? Like, what did you take away from knowing him? Because he seems like just a perfect person.
There's a lot of different things, but one thing that always comes to mind was, people have this sort of preconceived image of what a rock star or what a rock personality or what they're supposed to act like or how they're supposed to, what their image is supposed to be. And Lemmy is one of the most hard-ass kind of like on the surface kind of people you could ever see in rock and roll. I mean, he definitely looked the part of Dangerous. He definitely looked like the drinker and all that. But the thing is that he was such a well-spoken, well-read, educated and also compassionate, and he was very much the gentleman, and he was very conscious of other people's feelings and this and that and the other, but he didn't take any shit. So he was a really interesting dichotomy of all these different things that people don't understand when they look at him. And so they think, I'm supposed to act like a badass and act like a dick to be a rock star, and that's not the case. And I think he was a great sort of, icon to sort of change that. Miss all that.
We're going to talk more about the album. I have one more question since I have you in here. Speaking of, rock legends who are no longer with us. When Guns N' Roses got back together, you did the Whiskey Show 2016, I believe. Now, this is Troubadour. What I read. Was it the Troubadour? Yeah. That it was Axl's idea to do Slither. Was it his idea to add that to your all's set for that moment?
We didn't do it then.
You didn't do it?
It came up. I think it was Axl's idea to do it when it came up. It was on the set list, but we never actually did it until our European tour this year. Back in, I guess it was, when was that? But anyway, so yeah, I started in May, and so May of this year, and he just said, at rehearsal, let's do Slither. And we just started doing it then. But it was always in the set list.
I was, as a fan, I guess, I saw Scott come through here maybe weeks prior to him passing away, and watching his stage show and just having that so fresh in my mind. It was weird to me as a fan. But when I read that article, I thought, no, that's pretty rad that it was even in the set list to begin with. So I thought that was pretty cool. Speaking of somebody else that you've worked with and no longer is with us.
It was cool to do it. I mean, it's like, in a way, I think it was sort of cathartic for Duff and I to be doing it. One of the things that Scott had always says, he was always very supportive of the idea of Guns getting back together, and I was such the anti-Guns guy. I mean, I have to be honest. I was. Well,
when the hell would you fit it in your schedule?
Well,
You're always so busy.
That. It was just me being stubborn and whatnot. But so it was great to be up there performing that song, which is something that we did with Scott, and something that he'd always thought that we should get back together. So it had a combination of little things to it.
That's awesome. And P.S., speaking of great people, I met Duff once at the Grammy Awards. Couldn't be a nicer person again in the world. It's just amazing. You think they're all going to come up and punch you in the face, but they're just so kind. He was totally rad. He was so great. So we've got the new album, Living the Dream. It just came out. You guys just started the tour, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think we're like 6 shows into it or something like that.
Now, there's something that I read also on Twitter with some fans. All the fans are loving it because, like I said, it's a great rock album. And there were some people that were like, but Guns N' Roses is back together. Why would Slash even do this? He doesn't even need to do this. I don't think they realize it's not just a side project at this point.
Yeah, well, I mean, going back to what I was saying before, I've been doing this thing with Miles and the guys since 2010, and that was basically what I was doing. Aside from different side projects, that was the main thing. And so when Guns came along, that was huge, and it turned out to be one of the greatest things that I ever did. But at the same time, I didn't want to quit this relationship that I had established and a chemistry that I discovered with these guys, because great chemistry with musicians doesn't happen very often. You're lucky to have it happen once, and so I'm fortunate enough to have it happen twice. So I wasn't going to disband that just so I could focus on Guns full time, because Guns doesn't take up every hour of the day, and I will squeeze in those extra hours to do something like working with Miles and those guys.
Well, it's a great album. Big fan of the new the video that you put up this morning, Driving Rain. It's pretty cool. And if you guys will be listening to this, you got to go check out the video. Check out the videos. The music video's dead too. So I appreciate that you all even took the time to put some creative into it.
I almost didn't. I saw the
Don't give up
from the directors, and I was like, you know what? Let's just not even do this. And then I gave it one last effort, and I thought, okay. See what happens.
You did good on that. Thank you very much for taking the time to come in here. I know you are super busy.
Yeah, no, it's all good, but you know, you're on your this is your last day.
I'm literally. I have a couple more days. I'm on radio rock stations all over the country, so I'm trying to fine tune all that. So I'm like, I'm gonna go in, and every day I walk in here, and I'm like, why the fuck am I in here? Why the fuck am I doing this? I'm miserable.
See, I mean, you know, you're driven. You don't know why, but you just do it.
Everyone keeps saying that. They're like, why are you still there? And I'm like, because I'm a control freak. I have all these shows. I don't want to abandon my babies, and I want to make it perfect. And
that's awesome.
I'll work until I drop this kid right on the floor. So.
Well, you know, just get some newspaper out.
Yeah, this shit's a petri dish in here, so I wouldn't want to drop my poor kid. But
that's true.
We'll see how it goes. I don't know how much sex has been had on this floor, so I'm going to pass on that.
All right.
Thank you so much for everything. You're the best.